Today, we're going to recap and review Annie, a 1982 musical based on the 1977 Broadway musical of the same name. It was nominated for 2 Academy Awards and 3 Golden Globes. And the cast included Carol Burnett, Albert Finney, Bernadette Peters, Anne Reinking, Tim Curry, Geoffrey Holder, and Aileen Quinn. You know, this movie is really held as iconic, even though it wasn't actually profitable for the film houses. It was one of the highest grossing films of that year, bringing in $57.1 million, but it also had one of the biggest budgets at $40 million. So no, it wasn't a box office hit, but between that cast and the award nominations and the continued lore around it, it is truly considered a classic by many. But today we will determine whether it is a classic from the Wright Perspective. We'll do a recap, discuss the movie, and then we'll take a vote using a voting symbol picked especially for this discussion. But we got to start with intros. Kick us off, bro.
Hi, I'm Aubrey Wright. I'm the oldest.
I'm Genia Wright. I'm the middle.
Hello, I'm Brittany Wright. I am the youngest, and I have the VHS.
We saw it. You didn't even have to. All right. We saw the cover.
I needed to see it.
Okay. Thank you. I'm glad. And for those of you who don't know my youngest sister, Brittany, I'll let you know that Brittany kind of skipped. She's like a boomer millennial somehow. It's a very strange amalgamation of a skipped generation, but it also has a little peppers of that generation as well. So her actual generation spans like 3 generations, and I think she's the only one in that category.
It sounds about right.
A boom Gisenial.
You're welcome. Because simultaneously, I can't stand the young people, and I also want to be a part of them. I don't know what's going on.
There you go. All right.
And I have a stamp in my wallet right now because I may need to send a letter to the government.
All right, listen, we're going to get this thing back on track. We were doing
and I have apps on my phone because I ordered my groceries today from Target.
Okay, Jeanette, can you
You're
please
such a
keep
conundrum.
You're such a conundrum. I'm very hip.
And she didn't have a PayPal until last year. All right, so but let's go ahead.
They're very dangerous. People steal your identity, okay? On the dark web. God.
Oh, please get us back on track, Jeanette.
Okay. All right. What's next? You know what, you all, it is time to pick our voting symbol. Okay. Every episode, we pick a voting symbol that we will use to vote on the pod, to vote on the content that's being discussed. And once we pick that voting symbol, each of us will have an opportunity at the end of the episode to determine whether this movie from their individual perspective, is a classic. But it must be unanimous. All 3 of us must agree that it's a classic for it to be a classic from the Wright perspective. So we pick a unique voting symbol for each episode. And for Annie, I am very optimistic about the symbol that I want to propose because I believe that this is exactly the symbol that you all are thinking of. All right, because sometimes the content hands us a symbol that is so clear that we just...
And I think you're still, even with all this intro, you're still gonna mess it up. But go ahead. I'm ready.
And it is Annie's red wig. No. Now, no, I'm just kidding.
Perfect.
It's the locket, y'all. It's got to be the locket. I'm recommending the locket.
Listen, it has to be a red dress.
It's not a locket. It was a literal broken heart that was replaced with a whole heart when she was a part now of her family unit.
Your analysis is not incorrect. As a matter of fact, I agree with your analysis. But what I'm saying is when you see a picture of a locket, you do not think Annie. But if somebody showed you that little symbol with a red dress, you know exactly what they're talking about. The red dress the red dresses even went through all the races of the Eddies and all that kind of stuff because
it's true.
The red dress is iconic and it's attached to Eddie. It got like I wanted to think of some other ones, but I'm like, and I know it was kind of on the nose, but I can't. It's one of those I can't see how it's not a red dress. Brittany, do you think of any good ones on the spot?
Bottles of gin.
Okay, Janelle, back to the thought.
Yeah,
But no, seriously, it was the afro. That was the literal first thing that came to my head. Was
an
just
afro?
her face, her little.
You know, she was talking about the same thing that you were talking about.
Her curly hair.
The curly hair.
Hair.
Yeah.
But that is a symbol too.
It's also iconic, little curly hair.
When I said it earlier, I was joking, but I do like it because you know, her clothes changed, but who she was remained the same, you know, and that curly hair was with her from the very beginning to the end because it's a part of who she is, you know, and the song, they even had a song that said, who cares what you're wearing, you know?
You know what? I'm sold on the hair because, you know, this is one of those rare moments where it actually, the symbol meets all three of our criteria. I like the symbol. It's something I can see. I could have thought of during the movie. Brittany thought of it right up on the spot, so it meets her criteria.
That's because I don't need time.
And Janiyah was able to overanalyze it. So it meets all of all. So is that what we're doing? The red hair.
I think it's red hair, y'all. I really like that. It's curly red hair.
The red hair. Let's go.
Curly
red gosh, I love that. All right,
so let's go.
Well, let's get into our recap. And if you're new to our podcast, listen, we do a spoiler-filled recap at the top because our content is generally quite old, okay? And people haven't seen it in a while and need a refresher, or they haven't seen it at all and they still want to enjoy the podcast. And so we do a recap so that you can follow along and really enjoy our discussion that will follow. So let's recap Annie, the 1982 version. The movie takes place during the Great Depression in New York in 1933 and centers around a 10-year-old orphan named Annie. She is street smart and mischievous and a bit of a leader among the girls in her orphanage. She's also tough. You know, there's a scene where she intimidates a group of boys that are bigger than her to rescue a dog named Sandy that would ultimately become her pet. You know, she's also a survivor. You know, she really knows how to talk her way out of situations and really think on her feet, you know? And the orphanage where Annie lives is actually in very bad shape. And it's run by Miss Hannigan, a mean alcoholic that basically just throws herself at any man in sight. She forces the girls she forces the girls to clean day and night. I don't know what's in those pails. It ain't soap because the walls are not getting clean. But she forces the girls to clean day and night, and she'll lock them in the closets. She steals money from the orphanage. She's horrible.
She's the worst.
One day, Grace Farrell, the head secretary to well-known billionaire Oliver Warbucks, comes to pick an orphan to spend the week at his mansion as a part of a PR campaign. And Grace picks Annie. Sandy, of course, the dog, gets to go along too. Sandy the dog. While at the ginormous, beautiful mansion, Annie experiences a level of luxury that was beyond her wildest imagination. Wonderful food, clothes, a house full of servants to tend to her needs, tennis lessons, an indoor swimming pool. But more importantly, Annie experiences kindness at the mansion. The staff adore her and dote on her, and Grace Farrell, Mr. Warbucks' secretary, is completely in love with Annie and actually asks Mr. Warbucks to adopt her. At first, he balks at the idea. It had taken him a minute to adjust to having Annie around. He was used to spending his time focused on his three favorite things: money, power, and capitalism. Those are his words. His contemporaries are people like Rockefeller, DuPont, Vanderbilt, Carnegie. And in fact, countries are calling him up asking for loans. Okay. He's so rich that people are trying to kill him all the time. All right,
The Bolsheviks.
He has 2 bodyguards that are with him 24 hours a day. He's so rich, he can just take his helicopter to the White House to go hang out with the president whenever he wants. Okay.
It's an autocopter.
Thank you. Autocopter.
A vehicle of his own making.
Eventually, between Annie's charming ways and his relentless secretary Grace, he does spend some quality time with Annie, and he falls in love with her too. He does adopt Annie, and he tells her the big news, only for Annie to say that she doesn't want to be adopted because she believes her real parents are still out there somewhere looking for her. Of course, Mr. Warbucks is heartbroken. Okay. He thought he and Annie and Grace would be a family. Yes, eventually Grace and Mr. Warbucks do fall in love. Okay, with a little nudge from Annie. Okay. But instead of dwelling in that heartbreak, Mr. Warbucks launches a nationwide search to find Annie's parents, offering $50,000 to entice them to come forward. Now, I looked it up, y'all. $50,000 in 1933 is equivalent in purchasing power to about $1,111,958 in 2022.
Wow.
So
Okay.
it was like basically saying $1 million.
It was $1 million.
Okay, I got you.
Okay.
That's funny. That brings it even.
Doesn't
more,
it?
Yeah. Good.
Because they were lining up.
Yeah, they were.
Yes.
You heard the people go, Annie, it's your mother. And they were in the crowd. I was cracking up.
Lying. Hundreds of people came forward pretending to be Annie's parents, but only one couple out of the almost 900 that came forward had the evil Miss Hannigan feeding them information. Okay. It was Miss Hannigan's con artist brother, Rooster, and his girlfriend, Lily. It turns out that Annie's real parents had died in a fire years prior. Using the information Miss Hannigan gave them, they successfully tricked Mr. Warbucks and his team into believing that they were Annie's parents, and they left with Annie and Sandy and the $50,000 check.
The one time we needed the Maury Povich show.
You are not the father. They picked up Miss Hannigan along the way, and they were heading to Atlantic City to cash in. Okay. Little did they know that some of the orphans heard them discussing their plot and had broken out of the orphanage and made their way to the Warbucks mansion to try to save Annie. Now, the little orphans, they didn't arrive in time to stop the kidnapping, but fortunately Mr. Warbucks believed them and used his power and money to launch a ginormous search. In the car, Annie had, of course, realized what was happening as soon as Miss Hannigan got in the car. And she had used her street smarts to make them pull over, saying she had to go to the bathroom. And as you all know, when you gotta go, you gotta go. As soon as they pulled over, she grabbed that check and ran away. And while they were trying to catch her, she ripped up the check, which infuriated Rooster. And you all have to think about this. She had $1 million check in her hand.
Yeah.
And she just ripped it up, threw it onto the wet ground. He chased her up a bridge, trying to kill her, when one of Mr. Warbucks' bodyguards in the helicopter, wait, it's not what is it, bro?
It's an
autocopter.
When one of Mr. Warbucks' bodyguards in the autocopter saves Annie just in time. After the dust settles, Mr. Warbucks does adopt Annie, and he throws a huge celebration in her honor with fireworks and a random elephant and all of her friends from the orphanage. And he, Annie, Grace, and Sandy, the dog, live happily ever after. The end.
Excellent.
Great job, as always.
Thank you, bro and sis. do.
Yeah.
So y'all,
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, this is definitely a movie from our childhoods, right? Brittany, that VHS tape you have is probably from our childhood home. Am I right about that?
Absolutely.
Because we watched this a lot, right? What were you about to say, bro?
I'm just going to say that my sister Janaya is very amazing at the structure of this podcast and the editing. And one of the things she makes sure is that we unfold our ideas slowly. I'm not going to do that today because I'm just not. There's no way I could talk about anything without clearly saying I still love this movie because it was almost.
I have told him time and time again.
And I've been very good.
We have to build to the vote.
Bro, you think we don't get it, your vote, even when you don't say what you just said. But every person that watches this podcast knows when you're excited about a movie.
Okay, well, hey, listen. I'm talking about
yourself, Brittany, don't give him permission to not lean into the structure that we have all agreed upon.
But he's never been in the structure. He's literally been outside on the corner catching the bus. He's never been in the structure.
That's not true. You said never. But regardless,
we're gonna have to have a debrief.
Because
I'm gonna
listen. Even if I'm a very expressive person. And I might express myself sometimes. I still don't break the technical structure.
That's true.
I still don't say it.
That's true.
And that's the point.
That's true.
And what I'm saying is,
I'm picking up what you're dropping. I'm picking it up.
If you are listening, just know I'm giving Brittany a really, really mean look. But
I'm not picking up that look though. All I feel is love. I love you too.
Listen, okay. All I'm saying is when this movie starts, it's good from the start. Like, because everybody's talented. And like from the beginning, when she's singing, it's like, you could tell, like I did a little trivia. I'm not going to steal Janai's thunder on that.
Share your trivia, bro. There was so much trivia available, I'm sure.
But what I'm saying is that she was the end result. What's her name? The girl who played Annie.
Aileen Quinn.
Yeah, Aileen Quinn. She was the end result of 2 years and hundreds, thousands of auditions. And what I'm saying is, from the beginning, you could tell why.
2 years, 22 cities, 8,000 interviews.
And you could tell why. And you could tell why she made it. Right there's no doubt. And it's just like, I think it's probably the only movie she ever did, but like, she's like a veteran from the start. And like, I would have liked to know her as a little girl, because she was it must have been really amazing to see somebody that with it, that young.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But like right from the opening set, when she's singing about her parents, it's like, yo, this is a good movie.
I'm now going to respond to your comment without giving away, but my vote might be at the end. I agree, bro. Eileen Quinn.
She's made me a closet of clothes.
Listen,
so
from the very first second, you're getting this is a complicated child.
Yes.
They did a wonderful job of, like, in the very opening scene, giving us 3 or 4 components of her personality. And we were able to watch this young actress hold all of that complexity. We watched her be in longing and in sadness, just hoping and dreaming that maybe her parents are out there somewhere thinking of her, going to come back to reclaim her. 2 beats later, she is fighting off a bully in the orphanage to protect a young one.
That's right.
A beat after that, she's nurturing the young one. Okay. And then we see her playing mother hen to the whole group, shooing them to bed to try to protect them from the mean lady runs the orphanage.
That's right.
And so her opening lines, I agree with what you're saying, bro. I mean, they gave her a lot of complexity to hold. And that little Aileen Quinn, she held that complexity that day. Okay. I mean, all of those actresses, those little girls had a ton of talent. Sis, you were talking about that earlier. You were just talking about like the talent.
Yeah, what scene was it on?
The girls.
Yeah, what scene were you on when you texted us that, Britt? Where you were just like, They are so talented. Do you remember what scene you were on?
You know what? I think it was the first ensemble scene.
Yeah, I was thinking that.
Like Hard Knock Life?
Hard Knock Life. When they were doing it, I was like,
it's crazy.
Have a room, and then not just with their singing, their dancing and their acrobatics.
And like it took 5 days. It took them 5 days to shoot that scene. It's a Hard Knock Life.
It was so
it looks
good.
like it.
Yeah,
because
from headstands, back bends, they are doing everything.
But it's so effortless.
Yes.
It's so effortless.
It's so effortless. Like, and when they're flipping on those beds, those metal beds, I'm like,
Isn't
this a childhood hazard or something? I don't know. But it was just like, it almost looked like they were like, you need to flip on that bed? All right.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah. What, all day for 5 days, over and over? Sure thing. On it.
Listening to their voices were so rich. They were so talented. Right. Like you get listening to them, I'm like, okay, clearly you were like 2 years old.
Right.
And your parents heard you say like a little note.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it was like
dance.
Voice lessons. Exactly. The two young ladies outside of Annie that definitely because the three of us always joke about them all the time. When they're trying to name Sandy, they're naming the dog, and the one she's like, Rover, once you think it over. I mean, her voice was doing the lessons that
she was one of the finalists for Annie.
That makes sense.
There was a top 9, and there was a top 7, and she was in the top 7.
That makes sense because
all the sense.
Because I'm gonna let you know, Britt. I took some notes because I do not want to forget to talk.
Yeah,
about
I'm gonna get her name.
And I'm gonna tell you because tonight, do you have any trivia on this cast?
The
girls?
Not on the girls. Except that there are some celebrities that we know now that auditioned somewhere.
Okay, but what I'm saying is, whoever she was like, I got this one line.
Oh yeah,
I'm gonna let you know something.
Yeah, you ain't never gonna
forget this line.
Not ever. I said, for that to belt out in such perfect note, I said, how are these children?
She was just so
good.
And even the one that was, she was the one that was a little taller as well, and she had the longer brown hair.
Yes.
Then when they were doing the reprise of Bet You There Street, she had a note. I think hers was maybe now there's friends.
Yes.
Okay, Britt, you kind of hit that too though. Britt. All right.
They didn't want me. They didn't want me.
But yes, Britt, she hit that.
Let me read out a couple of names of these orphans. Okay, I'm not sure which one. I'm trying to see which one actually said the Rover. But the one that said, oh my goodness, her name was Laura Burke. Okay.
That is so funny.
Roseanne Sorrentino played Pepper.
Okay.
Tony and Jasandi played Molly. That was the little girl.
Molly. She was so cute.
Robin Ignico played Duffy. Lucy Stewart played July. Okay. And as we're talking, I'm going to see who sang that little Rover line because.
Yeah, I tried to look it up, but
I had it. And I lost it.
You're way better than that.
She did so well, but that was my first, y'all know, as those of you who watch our podcast, I will text Aubrey and Genia through the whole thing. We will text. Aubrey send us a text every now and then, but Genia and
I give up trying to keep up with y'all long time.
It's so much, but I will text through a whole movie sometimes.
Yes,
and
I love it.
But for this one, that was my main text message. I was like, these young ladies are just so and not just her. Even when, in speaking of singing, I knew Bernadette Peters could sing, but I did not know until I heard her singing Easy Street, and I was like, maybe just as an adult and having had some opportunity to be trained a little bit in singing, when I heard her voice, I was just like, Bernadette Peters. Your
So
voice is
good.
amazing.
So good.
That's that.
Amanda Peterson was in the
Amanda
top
Peters-
7 for her
Listen,
audition for
Amanda.
Annie. And she is the one that said, Rover. Why don't you
Amanda
get over it?
Peterson, I don't know if you will
You
ever see
sang
this
that song, Amanda
podcast,
Peterson.
but let me let you know, you sang that line.
Yes,
and
you did.
Forever in my memory. And you have brought a lot of joy to a lot of families.
Yes, you
with
have.
that one line.
Mhm.
With that one line. And you know, talking about the casting, there was just no weak points. Everybody was tight. Even if they had a small part, everybody gave it.
Everybody.
their
Mr.
all.
Bundle.
And
Mr. Bundle. The cop. These people you only saw one time for 3 to 4 minutes, they held their characters so well. They were so interesting. And I was right when we were in the green room, meaning chit-chatting before we pressed record.
Yes.
I was talking about Carol Burnett. Because y'all, you know, I don't think that I in my life have been given Carol Burnett the shine that she deserves. It's like, I know that she is like an iconic genius of a performer and comedian, but seeing her in this character and then thinking about her on like shows like Mama's Family, I just had a moment of like, this is such a talented performer. And I had to look it up, y'all. The Carol Burnett show, it ran for 11 seasons. And nowadays, 11 seasons wouldn't be, you know, but so many episodes. Okay. For her, 11 seasons amounted to 279 episodes.
And I bet every last one of them were hilarious.
You know, they were.
I mean, she just, that character, and you know, we're talking about the 80s. So they were allowed to do a lot of stuff that I know. And I'm glad that movie got recorded when it did. Excuse me, because they did a lot of stuff that you could do. Because let me tell you, she was drinking, okay? I'm talking about there was liquor
making gin in her bath
everywhere. But she was so funny. Like, I'm like, how do I know every word of this movie, but I'm still laughing?
Yes.
But it's just her timing. Like when she the two that still get me to this day. I remember getting it as kids. And we're going to be skipping back and forth through this movie, y'all. It's just what's going to happen. But there's a point where the youngest orphan stomps on her toe, right? Now, first of all, when she came,
Molly stomped on her toe.
Molly stomped on her toe. And when Miss Hannigan came in, first of all, it was because they were singing. And they were singing, again, all the numbers are great, but on this one, it's, you know, you're never fully dressed without a smile. That's why they're in the room singing, because they heard it on the radio. They actually heard it during a radio show where they were looking for Annie's parents with Mr. Warbucks. And so it was at night, and Miss Hannigan comes in, and she's like, did I hear happiness? Because earlier in the movie, she came in and she said, did I hear singing? Right. Because they were singing early. But like when she came, it wasn't about the singing. It was just like happiness. Like, do I...
And you know, and it was like one of the, and because again, knowing the movie so well, it's, as you said, Aubrey, is like, I probably could just turn off the sound and just talk through most of it. Happening. I definitely know all the songs. But this was the first time, and I think it was because I was taking notes, that I really thought about the fact that she was forcing these little girls to say, "We love you, Miss Hannigan," over and over again. And she was teaching them to say, "I love you," after she was abusive to them. So she would be mean to them and then wait for them to say, "I love you, Miss Hannigan." And I was just like, oh my gosh, she is not only like being physically abusive, she is emotionally abusive. These young ladies are going to live in the implications of this experience. Like, is this what they're being taught that love is? Like,
but you know what was interesting is that, first of all, I just want to say, at the end of that, when Molly stomped on her toe, that was another one. Because when she was like,
every time.
Miss. They never miss. And like, I'm just saying, it just shot me back 35 years. Just, but it was interesting because she was abusive, but also the relationship between them was very interesting because they allude to her being physically abusive, but they never showed her do anything. And the other thing is they were scared of her, but
except
not that
drag
really.
them and put them in the closet.
Well, yes. I mean, she would.
She yanked them around a bit. I think that is abusive.
Yeah, we saw it.
Yeah,
she talked about the paddle closet. But we didn't see the paddle closet.
But also what I'm saying is that, but there also were times where they were singing and where they were doing things and nothing happened to them.
Yes.
So it was not taking away from her wrongness. I'm just saying, watching this as an adult, it seemed like the relationship was a little more complex than I've ever thought. And the reason why is because she was obviously never able to have kids. And so you see her desire that she wanted to have kids playing out in this angst towards the kids. But at the same time, it's like she abuses them, but then it doesn't go too far. It's like this weird thing. And then, go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead. Like, finish.
I was just going to say, because at the end, and I'm not saying this should have redeemed her to the point that it did in the movie, but at the end, it was just this realization that he's going to really kill her, and what I'm saying is I think Miss Hannigan goes far, but in her mind, something actually happening doesn't occur to her.
She's an alcoholic. She's drunk. Right. She's drunk the entire movie. And so
from soup to nuts.
From soup to nuts. And there's a level of this is the Great Depression.
Yes.
You know that Carol Burnett's character, that Miss Hannigan has had you start to make some assumptions about her origin story, especially as you learn that her brother had been incarcerated,
right?
And has been a con man,
stole money off her,
and we're watching her throw herself at men. So you're already looking at her like, yeah, she's been through something, and it doesn't matter why it's happening, even if it's because she's stealing money. It is one woman, and it looked like 150 girls. How many girls were in that house? It's a lot. It was like 100 or something, 125. It was a lot of girls and one woman. And she had this song, little girls. Everywhere I go, I see them. That's right. They're everywhere in this house. She would open a closet. There'd be a group of them in there. So at the same time that you were like, you're horrible, you were also like, oh, poor Miss Hannigan.
But these children were tormenting her right back.
Because that was the thing. That's what I'm saying. It was like this two-way, because my goodness, they put a dead rat.
Yes, they did.
That was hilarious. It was like Miss Hannigan, and that was going to be my point, sis. We often talk about that could be a whole movie in itself. The origin story of Miss Hannigan.
We'll watch it, Britt.
Absolutely.
I will watch it.
Because it's like, you don't become this type of person without there being some sort of story behind it.
That's our idea. That's our idea. If you make it, you got to give us money. That's our idea.
Her brother stole money out of her purse.
Out of her purse.
I mean,
her fake sister-in-law, her brother's boyfriend, was also stealing things, jewelry. Like she was picking things up and putting them in her bosom. It was just
Bernadette Peters.
She's another one. People.
So she's another one.
But the part that Aubrey was talking about was what she said as well. She was like, Rooster, she's just a baby. Because she knew her brother's capabilities. She knew what was about to happen if he caught on to her. And I think that, how sometimes when people are just not super awesome, they have a wake-up call. And I feel like that was
her wake-up call.
Like, yep. They're babies or kids, and it's like, girl, but how you been treating them? Okay. So I just think that, and then even she was so mad that when he finally did slide down being up there, she knocked his
after
tail
it.
right out.
Yeah. And you know what?
After him and knocked him out. I said, I know that's right, Miss Hannigan. Now for stealing money too.
And look, and you talking about this moment of her clarity, because as an adult, I'm like, because at the end of the movie, she's riding on the elephant, like with her drink. She's still drunk.
She's now a friend of the family.
She's a friend of the family.
But the thing is, she did save Annie's life. She actually, because slowing Rooster down a little bit gave Punjab the few more seconds he needed.
Yeah.
He would have killed her.
Well, you know what? The other thing is, there was, so when Daddy Warbucks goes to the orphanage to adopt Annie, he reveals that he has had a background check done on Miss Hannigan.
That's right.
And he just lists out all of the things about her that she does that are illegal and inappropriate, and how poor a job she's doing. And all he used that information to do is to get her to sign the papers for Annie. He doesn't do anything to try to help the rest of those little girls. He doesn't do anything to stop Miss Hannigan, And so anyway, when she was riding around at the party at the end, my first thought was, she could be in the sequel, but she should be locked up right now. But then I thought about it a little bit more, and I was like, you know what? We are also letting all of them off the hook for a lot, because you have to remember, Daddy Warbucks, his character is not that virtuous. He left those other girls sitting there in that orphanage under this care of this woman that he was saying was awful, had the receipt.
Yeah.
And he was making money off of war. His name is literally Warbucks.
Yeah.
And so none of them are.
I did not put that together. That's good to know.
Don't you remember he was on the phones talking about there was a country wanting to borrow money from him?
Listen, for those moments when they were having conversations on the phone, all that was going on in his house, I could not follow anything that was happening. I was like, I'm pretty sure.
That was the point, though.
Chaos.
That was the point. I think they wrote it like that. So you're supposed to feel like you don't.
What is happening right now is too much.
The same way, and that was the interesting thing about the movie, because they had these moments that were very funny, and I think about when Annie was fighting the boys over Sandy, and she had this moment where she put her fist up at the end to scare him, and it was so corny.
It was so
but
cute.
Here's the thing, she was so confident that it worked, and it was like all of the super, even if it was corny, they were just so sold out to it that it still worked. And then they had the serious moments, like when you had the conversation between Annie and Daddy Warbucks about her real parents. That was some good acting, man.
Absolutely.
She was really searching, and you could see the conflict, but also her principle is, I was going to find my parents, and it just so gave depth to both of these characters. You see her principles, and you see him, he didn't try to convince her. He didn't try to, talk down to her. He's just like,
he understood.
As much as it hurts, I love you so much. Let's go find your parents.
One of my favorite scenes I was looking forward to was the movie scene when they went to Rockefeller Center to go watch the movie. Let's go to the movies. And I was just like, okay, back in the day, everything was more of an experience.
That's
right? It was more grand.
That's right.
You would go to the plane and you would put on your Sunday's best if you were going to the airport. Now it's like, I'm sorry, ma'am. Did you wash up today? Okay. And so, because the rest of us have to sit beside you. Okay. And so and just to see, I was like, man, was it really like that going to the movies? I know of course it was a musical, but just in terms of people being, looking nice and all in uniform and, having to show you to your seat and I was just like, this is so grand. I was like, I just love this.
I am so happy. I'm so happy you brought up that scene. But I want to let you know, I was having a completely different experience in when I was watching that scene. I was not sitting there like, oh, the grunge, y'all. You know,
this podcast was so good.
Let me tell y'all, the first thing is when I first moved to New York, as I was just checking all of the touristy things off my list. Well, the Rockettes are still here.
Yeah,
they're still here. But here's what you need to know. They still doing that same choreography. They still kicking up that same leg.
I mean, how much can you
bending over to the left? Yeah. I don't know. But it was imprinted on my brain that they were awesome because of Annie. And I get there and it was like women dancing in sequence in the line. And I can't kick my leg up like that. So I'm not hating, but I am just saying they still doing that same dance. But the other thing that I had, the experience that I had, and they just only recently started getting Black people in the Rockettes, just so y'all know. I mean, it's not been that long ago. That's the other thing about the Rockettes. Sure. They still ain't quite figured all that out very well.
This is a fun podcast, isn't it? Can we
goodbye fun. Goodbye fun, because I'm now about to bring up some real. I hope you've enjoyed the fun phase.
Bring it in. Racism. No.
The thing about that scene is it is just a bunch of very pretty white ladies. White ladies singing to you, dancing to you. And they're just so pretty and special and precious. And, it's
1933, sis.
All I'm saying is maybe the movie is placed in 1933, but the children that were watching it were alive in the 80s. That's what I'm saying. And those are the people that are walking around right now. And so when we are talking about, what people find beautiful and what people find precious, we have to just own when people say things like representation matters, what they're really saying is the way that the brain works is that these experiences become imprinted into the psychology of your life. And if what you're seeing on the screen all the time is pretty white lady, pretty white lady, pretty white lady dancing at me, just in a beautiful cloud, it's like, gosh, even on a subconscious level, that is what will be beautiful to you. And if that's what you see on the screen, and then you're a little Black boy and you look around your house and you just see regular people, not Rockettes, it's like, I can tell you
that had no impact on me. Just as a case study.
Well, bro, what I'm talking about is subconscious imprint. And bro, it is actually has been objectively proven at this point that we all have preferences toward white women, Black women too. We all have it because we have been socialized to believe that they are the most beautiful. Bro, it's not one of those things that you can debate. It is the truth of the experience of growing up in America that what your experience the world. The research I'm thinking of though is about American psychology. And I was watching that scene and I was just like, yeah, if this is everything you see on television and everything you look at in magazines and every time you see a poster on the wall is that, yeah, you're going to start to internalize that. And so, Britt, as you were sitting there like, oh, look how grand things were, I was like, see, this is the problem.
Yeah, it was too much joy, so you wanted to bring that down a bit. I get it. It was Janiyah was like, do I hear happiness
in here?
I had to remove my brain, that part of my brain, right? I had to shut it off. That conscious part that's like, what the? So I could enjoy the movie because when I was looking it up, I did not realize that the movie came out in 1982. I honestly thought the movie had came out in early 70s, 60s. I thought the movie was much older than that. So when I realized it came out in 82, I was just like, oh no, this cast was not diverse at all. I was like, there were 3 people of color in this movie. And the third person, y'all probably missed her because she was in the background in the neighborhood when they were out and about trying to get Sandy. She walked past in the market and I was like, oh, I see you. That was Aunt Renee. And so I was like, Aunt Riri, where you going? But it really kind of like, I was like, wow. But then also, I had to be very clear, as Aubrey is stating, it's 1933. If you were going to make a movie about certain things, you were only going to see certain people in certain neighborhoods. And that's just, it is what it is. I had to dispense that part because it was trying to creep up in there. And I said, we're going to watch this movie as we did when we were a little kid and we weren't aware.
Well, one of the things we always talk about though is whether a movie holds up. Does it hold up? Because there's something like, I think about, like certain Whitney Houston songs. There's songs that Whitney Houston sang that will just be good forever. Okay. Even though the context of the world changed, I still want to dance with somebody. Okay. I mean, some of these songs are just good.
And I will always love you, bro and sis.
And then you hear songs that are using maybe like slang of the moment, or referencing, I don't know, something that's trendy right now, a current pop culture phenomenon or something. And you just know that those songs may be good to the people who were there when it came out, but it might not appeal later. So there is something to be said for like doing the reality check of watching it with a lens of today, right now, because I don't think that takes away from the joy that the movie gave us in our childhoods, because you don't know what you don't know. That's the thing. It's like they say ignorance is bliss. If you truly don't understand the complexity of what happens with implicit bias in your subconscious, then it doesn't matter what content you take in. But once you know better, you have to do a better job of analyzing the moment and managing what you take in your life. So I think this is one of those classic situations where 2 things are true. It was so good, and it's also problematic.
So I love the fact that Warbucks, he talked through many of his songs. I thought that was hilarious, especially his song with Carol Burnett. It was so good. Their interaction when he was getting her to sign the papers, but also
that song was written in 2 days for the movie because they requested that song. Carol Burnett and Albert Finney together requested a song to flesh out that moment of their meeting for the paperwork.
Oh, so it was one of the songs that wasn't in the musical.
It was really good. Which, by the way, listen, whoever wrote the music for Annie, I hope they want something because it was really good and it was still holding up.
Music by Ralph Burns.
I don't think we talked about it, but We Got Annie. That whole song and dance, Miss, who the secretary?
Grace Farrell.
Grace Farrell.
Yeah, she did.
Listen, honey,
job.
I hope she's still alive to see this. I don't know. Listen, amazing. Her dancing in this movie, her singing, her acting. I was like, I don't know if she's gotten any awards or anything like that. I don't do the research, but
it was all good.
She was phenomenal. She was so good.
She was excellent. She was excellent. And she's another character that is amazing, but also she's a little problematic. There was this scene where Daddy Warbucks and Grace, they are starting to own their feelings for each other because Annie had been kind of nudging them along to let them know that they actually had romantic feelings, even though neither of them was acknowledging it, And so Mr. Warbucks is looking at her as a woman for the first time and really assessing her. And he says, your teeth are crooked. And she says, I'll fix them. And he says, I like them crooked. She says, I'll keep them. And it's one of those things that is like, gosh, it is like a sweet little moment. No, it's like a moment of like, oh, I just want you, sir. And I get that. But it's also one of those things that is absolutely like the way we've kind of been socialized. Like, it's like women do whatever it takes to be chosen by a man.
Well, let me tell you this. Let me tell you right now. Let a billionaire tell me, Brittany, you need to fix your teeth. And I'm going to say, well, how did you put it on the card so I can go get it done? I don't have an issue.
Imagine that doing something to get the man you're attracted to. Imagine that. That is. Yeah, those were some terrible days.
I know. And it's like, imagine someone appreciating you for who you are. Bananas.
But also, I've been looking in the mirror myself and I'm like, oh, these teeth could use a little love. Like, you want to pay for it? And I'm about to live in this mansion that's as big as a city. And we're about to go on an autocopter to Paris to go eat chicken. Like, I'm gonna get my teeth fixed. But also, if him saying that, we got to bring up the fact that she was able to manipulate him, because when he was like, what? Send her back, orphans of boys. She was like, but she's already here. And she's saying all the things that she knows is going to be.
She's going to be upstairs. I'll take care of her. You never do anything. What do you mean?
And so it was funny, like to think about him saying your teeth are crooked. It's like, it's fine because, brother, I've probably manipulated you out of $1 billion by now and you don't even know.
So y'all, we were just celebrating Carol Burnett, right? In the role of Miss Hannigan. Guess who got offered that job first? Bette Midler.
Oh, this movie would have been very different.
It would have been different. And I got to tell you, and I love me some Bette Midler. Don't nobody say nothing about my Bette Midler.
I mean, don't you say.
But I got to say,
big business up in here.
Carol Burnett was the right choice. Carol Burnett.
Yeah, I couldn't see Bette Midler.
But Bette Midler turned it down. She declined it.
Wow.
But it would have been different, you know? And also Rooster, played by Tim Curry, I think he was a great choice. He was actually a very well-known Shakespearean actor. And then he kind of converted into movies. He had done Rocky Horror Picture Show. Is that what Rocky Horror?
Yeah.
That. And but that part had been initially offered to Steve Martin. Can y'all imagine if it had been Steve Martin and Bette Midler? It would have been very different.
I think that Steve Martin and Bette Midler, neither one of them were grimy enough to play those roles. They were very, and it would have been probably funny in a different way, but not in the way that it was.
No way.
It would have been a little more. Yeah, Carol Burnett, just that part, even when she was singing and she was drunk and she was trying to find the little note, she was like, little. I'm like, who else is doing this well?
No one. And Sean Connery was up for the role that Albert Finney played.
That's hilarious.
He was the first choice. And one place I read said that he turned it down because he didn't want to shave his head. But he was the first choice. So it's like there could have been like a Sean Connery, Bette Midler, like it would have been very different. I'm so happy it did where it did.
And I still want to, bro, did you ever watch the version? Because when I was looking it up, I didn't realize that there had been another Annie that Disney did. And
I haven't watched any subsequent versions.
Okay. Because I was like, I've never seen that one. Now I did see the more recent one, and I was like, oh, okay. We got Annie. Punjab, so the part though that I did go, okay, you guys, whenever the asp was dancing and they made the music sound like traditional.
So the asp was the chauffeur and bodyguard. He was a martial arts expert from Japan, and Punjab is Warbucks' Indian bodyguard. Punjab was played by Geoffrey Holder, and the asp was played by Roger Minami. We had some super fun text messages about these two characters because in particular, it's like, you know, Punjab's character is actually magical. He can heal pain. He can make things.
And nobody ever talks about it in the movie.
He's just magical. And so he's literally a magical Negro. That trope of the magical Negro, yeah, literally. I mean, it was just like, really? He's magical? And then they had, and to Brittany's point, they would change the music whenever the two of them were dancing. When the Japanese man or the black man, whenever they were dancing, they changed the music. And it was just like to be like a little like tropish music.
Which also, I was like, they couldn't find an Indian man to play Punjab. I was like, I mean, I'm happy you were in, Geoffrey, because you're amazing. But I was just like, oh, okay, well, you know. So I thought that was, it just kind of made me chuckle.
Yeah, I love Punjab in that.
And to speak of the cast of the maids and everyone in there, I don't want to miss Drake, who Drake was the one that was washing the dog. That part was so small, but who's Drake's character, he was just so like we are going to give this is the character that gives stuff like you got to wash the dog. Like,
that's a great number too. I think we're going to like it here. I think you're going to like it here. Or so think good. I'm going to like it.
Oh,
yeah,
so
it's a great.
It was so good.
Oh man,
it was so good.
I enjoyed all the numbers though. You know,
they did an amazing job. Yeah. Every last number was on.
Do you have a favorite number from this? I will say, from my perspective, the music served that key purpose of moving the story along. There is not one song in this entire thing, song list that didn't add some value. You know, the only one that if I was just going to make a little case for it, like, what are you doing in there? It was Dumb Dog. But
that wasn't in the play either.
It wasn't in the play. Mm-hmm. And what I realized, though, is that what it did was it allowed us to show how she was struggling to make connections, how she immediately wanted to distance herself from the dog and not have emotion about the dog because of her issues of abandonment, you know? And so she defaults to Dumb Dog instead of allowing herself to love and appreciate the dog. She doesn't want to get attached. And so it did serve a purpose.
Yeah, I literally loved every number, and that's unusual. But also, I loved how they integrated it. I thought was unique to this musical because, like, the musical numbers, and I'm fine with this. We talked about it, but like, you know how normally, especially if you're watching the original ones, you know, from the early times, like at the end of the number, it's like, you know, it'll fade off and then go into the next scene. But in this, they would sing and then the scene would continue. Yeah. It might be about to end, but since there's a few more words said afterwards, it gives it a very natural feel to move from song to, and even when, like, they're not acting like they're not singing. You know what I'm saying? Like when Miss Hannigan was like,
do I hear singing in here? Yeah.
And it's like and you know, when you're kids, you do stuff like that. You know, you'll be singing, you'll be putting on shows. And that's why it's like that is what they would be doing. So just let it, like, they're not acting like they're, or when the title song, well, not the title song, but tomorrow. The
most famous song.
Tomorrow when they're, you know, she's saying, like, you know, I sing the song when I'm sad. And so she starts singing it because she's singing the song. But it's like part of the movie, but it's actually what she's doing at the same time. Mm-hmm. And then even when they're in it, you know, FDR is like, sing, you know, sing it, you know, even the Republicans, you know what I mean? And I like how they did that, how they integrated the singing like it's actually happening rather than, you know, most musicals, it's kind of like they don't act like they're singing, but they're singing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really good.
Yeah.
Listen, my jam was Easy Street.
So good.
That one was the only one that, if we're pulling out nitpicking, that one felt a little long to me.
Okay.
But
well,
if we were nitpicking,
I have a little couple of factoids about that one.
Yeah.
So they actually, the original version of that scene, and you can find like grainy bits of it out online. The original version of that scene had the three villains dancing in the street, singing the Easy Street song. It was grander. It had, I think it was something Carol Burnett was saying, it was like 200 extras or something. It was a whole huge street production. And they had wrapped filming with that scene being done. And then I saw a little interview with some of the film creators, and they were saying, we felt like we had to redo that scene to make it more intimate, because we felt like everything else we had done was pretty darn near perfect. And we just thought that scene was way too grand for what was actually happening, which was bad guys conspiring.
Right.
And they were like, so we brought them back, you know? And so 2 months after filming had wrapped, the three of them came back to do that scene. And here's another little factoid about that. I saw an interview with Carol Burnett, and she had her chin done in that 2-month period. And so she tells this story where she's like, I said to the director, if you're just going to change the dance number, it's like I'm going to walk into the closet with one chin and walk out of the closet with another chin, because she got her overbite corrected and her chin like extended out a little bit. And so she's like, I had no chin when I went in the closet. I'm going to have a chin when I come out. And she said, I received the best directing advice I've ever been given. He said, just come out with a determined look on your face.
He was like, we not doing makeup.
Yeah,
we ain't doing no prosthetics.
So
I never noticed.
Yeah.
Never.
Mine is Hard Knock Life. That would be my favorite.
Yeah.
That would definitely be my favorite. Now I'm thinking about it, that would be mine.
Yeah. Hard Knock Life is definitely
that's an amazing
and I'm saying that because I'm like, all of them are my favorite. The ones that I was expecting.
Got Annie, y'all. What about We Got Annie?
But that Hard Knock Life number though, like
all those little girls.
Hard Knock Life.
Flipping around.
The acrobats, like I was just like, this is amazing.
And the vocal talent. Yeah. So good. We talked about the characters in acting. We talked about the music. We talked about the story. We talked about all of it, y'all. Are we ready to vote? We even talked about how the current day lens on it.
Well, it's obviously you two voting because I already gave my vote, but yes.
If you would honor the structure, even just
I'm gonna
for a few minutes.
No, I'm gonna. Yes, it is. I love everything about this movie. I fully enjoyed it 100% from the start to the finish, and it's a pretty long musical. But I loved all the acting, all the music, all the characters. It was just a lot of fun to me. So, and it will always be. So it definitely gets my red hair, my red wig, which her hair was a wig.
It was a wig. And she had to dye her real brown hair because it kept showing through the wig.
Yep.
So she dyed her real brown hair red.
It's a great wig because I never knew.
Wow.
It's a good wig. It's a good wig.
Okay, so that answers my question then. I had wondered what came first. Was that her hair? And then so Annie became iconic because she had that hair, or was that hair from the actual play?
Yeah, probably.
So, well, I'm guessing it was hair from the actual play.
I actually know the answer to that. So excellent. There was a comic strip called Little Orphan Annie. Okay, and the musical the stage musical was inspired by the comic strip. Oh. And then the movie was inspired by the musical. Okay. And the comic strip had the curly hair.
Okay. Yeah. Excellent.
Yeah. Y'all, I will give this movie my red wig as well. And it's because I would watch it again. It's because, and this is something, I don't think I've said this about many of our movies. I would just listen to the soundtrack. And in fact, I'm going to, when I do my get my 10,000 steps tomorrow, I'm just gonna put on this soundtrack, y'all, because these songs are good and these singers are talented, and this movie is fun. It is fun. And I will say, when you see a child actor that can bring it, like Aileen Quinn brought it, it just lets me forgive everything else that might not have been great.
She brought it so that it was brought.
Oh, and let everybody know she had brought it that day. Okay. And don't nobody need to bring nothing else, because she brought everything we need. So between her and Carol Burnett, I actually was asking myself, like, if I had like kids in my life, would I show them this movie? And the answer is yes, because I think it is fun. I think it's engaging. I also think it tells a lot of really wonderful moral stories. And I think we owe it to children today to help them to be able to dissect content so that they can be more intelligent than we were when we were taking in content. I would like for children to be able to have a critical lens to say, I can enjoy something and also intellectually understand that there are some pieces of this that are not okay, So for those reasons, yes, I would give this movie my red wig.
Awesome. I definitely give this movie my red wig because I enjoyed it while I was watching it. I felt the nostalgia. I feel like it is timeless. I feel like the actors and actresses, they're all amazing and still amazing. And I enjoyed it for what it was, and just, even though I was able to look at some things and go, okay, that's a problem, I was still able to have a good time as I was watching it. And it makes me chuckle to myself a bit, because I was just sitting here thinking about like, what is it like right now with Daddy Warbucks, Annie, and the secretary? I don't know why I cannot remember her name in this movie.
Grace Farrell.
Grace, thank you, Grace.
Well, I had this whole sequel thought up where Daddy Warbucks got murdered by one of his previous clients. So Annie and all of the orphans become a crew of assassins, and they all learn how to be really great fighters based on their dancing ability. And then they go out in the world to avenge the death of Daddy Warbucks. Annie too.
Yes.
I take back every disparaging word I've ever said about my brother. The man's a genius.
And that's a whole new meaning to the musical called Annie, Get Your Gun. All right. There it is. And so
can
you imagine a redheaded ninja?
Yes, I can.
Well, my sequel was a little different. It was just really getting a chance to see them living in this mansion and like talking Warbucks out of his money or just into situations all the time, because Annie was good at it too. She was like, well, even if I've only been here for a few hours, that's all I'll ever need. This was so great. It's like, Annie, you're so good at this too. So
that's real life, because like the thing about men with little girls, it's like he knew what she was doing. It didn't matter.
It
just didn't matter.
Faces, they would be like, she's really trying it.
And I don't care. And it works.
Yeah, yes. Totally. It's like this
I'm in there.
And that's how it is.
Yeah.
It's so like,
so to
it's
watch
so hard looking down at a little girl and trying to say no, especially when she's talking like that. I had a great time.
She's working this angle. She's working an angle.
I think that it would be so funny to just see there be at every turn. Yes, him just like every time he's like, no, we're not doing this. And it's like the next scene is they're doing it. And so
I think mine would be a little more exciting.
Yeah. And I think that would be it, because that would be, what I wrote was the beginning of the movie that you're talking about. Because we want to see them all happy and stuff. And everyone's like, oh my goodness, this is so happy. And then it's like, the Bolsheviks come back and Brittany. He's dead.
And
Brittany,
bro,
I love it. I love it.
Do they have a specific phrase that they say before they take out the bad guys? Like, sorry, buddy, it's a hard knock life.
Yeah. Well, you're not going to, the sun's not coming out for you tomorrow.
Yeah.
They can reference all the songs. That's right.
Yeah, totally.
That's right.
Yeah, and then when the bad guys first come into the trap, they're like, you're not going to like it here. Bam! Gotcha again. Yes.
So yes, Annie gets my red curly Afro wig thing.
Well, y'all, there you have it. Annie, the 1982 version, is a classic from the Wright Perspective. Another fun discussion, bro and sis. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. Love y'all. Bye.
I love you too. Bye.